So, after the Al Jazeera documentary, anong steps ang in-undertake nyo para i-validate yung mga claims doon?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Without going through the details, we would like to confirm that we have parallel efforts to verify as to first, whether or not Zhijang is a bona fide MSS personnel. Two, to check on his story regarding his so-called recruitment in our country. And of course, Madam Chair, its implication as to the person and the circumstances of one Miss Go Huaping.
Okay. As far as you can tell us, ano yung pagkaalam nyo sa bona fides ni Zhijang?
While we await the results of our parallel efforts, Madam Chair, what we could initially inform the committee are the parallels between Mr. Zhijang and Go Huaping. We will deal with those specifics. Again, we'd be happy to provide the committee during closed-door discussions and tie it up, Madam Chair, with our current efforts in the National Intelligence Committee as to the extent of the United Front work of the Chinese Communist Party and mainland China, Madam Chair.
Salamat,
Madam Chair?
Deputy. Yes, Senator De La Rosa.
Yes, I would like to ask the Deputy Director General ng NICA. Are you optimistic, Madam Chair? Are you optimistic, the Deputy Director is, if we can get that official confirmation or denial coming from Chinese government sources as to the connection of this Ma Dongli to the MSS and also yung si Zhijang. Are you confident? Are you optimistic na makakuha tayo ng confirmation?
Madam Chair,
Yes,
Your Honor,
Deputy.
given the state of our affairs with mainland China, it would be hard to speak as to the level of cooperation we can expect from said country. However, there are still two other factors that may determine whether or not we can establish if Zhijang is a bona fide MSS agent. One is the cooperation of our Thai partners who have jurisdiction, who have custody of Zhijang. And second, the strength of the efforts of our, again, the parallel efforts that we have without divulging the specifics, Madam Chair, as to the results yet of that parallel effort.
So if I may, Senator De La Rosa, NICA will be coordinating with DFA and DOJ, possibly, para ma-access ng gobyerno natin si Zhijang at makuha yung mga impormasyon na kailangan para maproteksyonan nyo ang gobyerno?
Madam Chair, it goes without saying that we are very much willing to cooperate. However, by the nature of our work also, you're aware that there are also other channels that we may be able to avail of.
All the better for the sake of our nation's safety. Yes,
Correct, Madam
Senator
Chair.
De La Rosa.
I'm sure NICA has a very extensive source of information, and they can get it from other sources. If they cannot get it officially from China, then they have their other sources. So I hope they will. You pounce on that, Deputy Director General, para mapapalagay ang taong bayan na tayo'y alam natin kung sinong kalaban natin, sinong hindi natin kalaban, at sinong babantayan natin. Yun lang importante dyan, para mapalagay yung taong bayan. Because iba na talaga pag national security ang pag-usapan. Everyone can be restless pagdating sa issue na yan. Yun lang, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you po, Senator De La Rosa. So, Deputy Asedillo, for those three subjects of your parallel efforts right now, yung bona fides ni Zhijang, then pangalawa, sorry, what was the second point? And then the third was any relation to Go Huaping. What was the second subject of your parallel efforts?
Madam Chair, there was mention in the documentary
Yes.
that allegedly Zhijang was recruited here in the Philippines.
Right.
We would like to look into that as well.
Okay. So, for these three subjects nung parallel efforts ninyo, kahit in broad strokes, ano pa ba yung ma-share nyo sa komite sa findings nyo so far?
Madam Chair, these are ancillary to the proceedings today. If you would allow, they are a bit lengthy po.
How long, how lengthy? How many minutes?
This would probably be a few minutes lang po, but I think this would highlight what has so far been uncovered in this committee and how this ties up with the current efforts of the legislature to plug the gaps and the loopholes in our system.
Please
And
proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Few minutes.
Once again, good afternoon to the committee, Madam Chair. Thank you for this opportunity. Without causing undue anti-Chinese hysteria,
If I may, Deputy Cedillo, this is not anti any country. This is really anti-abuse of the rights of women, children, workers. In fact, alam naman po ng lahat, marami sa ni-rescue na human trafficking victims ay mga Chino mismo. So this is anti yung pogo and criminal activities na kinakanlong nila. So please proceed, Deputy.
thank you, Madam Chair. Very well understood. I think it is important for the committee and our nation to understand the three possible trajectories of massive Chinese presence in our country. One, we have been host to, at various points of our history, we have been host to massive Chinese diaspora. Is this latest influx part of that long-standing trend, or is this something else? Two, there is also the potential that Chinese criminal elements have relocated into our country, having found a safe haven here. Three, this could be related to the first and second part of a genuine Chinese Communist Party and Chinese government effort to infiltrate, establish a foothold, and ultimately undermine the Philippines and its national interests, whether our foreign policy or our domestic affairs. The three I mentioned cannot be viewed in isolation anymore, generally because of the authoritarian nature of the Chinese government, and specifically because of a piece of Chinese legislation, the National Intelligence Law of 2017, that compels Chinese citizens and entities, even foreign ones operating in China, to cooperate with security and intelligence agencies. And it is a very broad mandate, specifically Article 7. The United Front, which the chairperson earlier adverted to, must be understood not just as a Chinese Communist Party arm, but also as a broad system involving agencies, social organizations, businesses, universities, research institutes, and individuals carrying out United Front work activities. It is at once a dedicated body within the Chinese party-state apparatus and a galaxy of actors orbiting around it. Another aspect to United Front work, Madam Chair, is its broad spectrum, whose depth is often underestimated, ranging from open operations, that is, public diplomacy undertaken by ambassadors across the world, to clandestine operations, which we are now seeing part of, to undermine social cohesion, exacerbate racial tension, influence politics, harm media integrity, facilitate espionage, and increase unsupervised technology transfer. While United Front work is not an intelligence service per se, it can nevertheless offer a cover for intelligence officers carrying out clandestine actions and recruitment of local agents, our very own Filipinos, acting for and in behalf of the CCP and the Chinese government, whether or not they are conscious of it. Since coming to power in 2012, President Xi Jinping has reinvigorated the United Front, which he was already familiar with, his father being a contributor to it. during his early days. In May 2015, the United Front work was raised to the rank of Central Conference, thereby acknowledging its increased importance. The most distinctive characteristic of United Front work in the Xi Jinping era consists more than ever on the strategic importance of the United Front and the necessity to improve its coordination. Lastly, Madam Chair, the United Front is therefore a Communist Party policy devised to develop and reinforce its hegemony. The activities of the United Front consist in allying with or neutralizing groups situated outside the sphere of control of the Chinese Communist Party to ensure its role as the sole legitimate representative of the Chinese people. Concretely, this means eliminating domestic and external enemies, controlling groups that could defy CCP authority, building a coalition around the party in order to serve its interests, and projecting influence abroad in such a way that even individuals and groups based in liberal societies such as ours are brought to censor themselves and avoid taking a position against the Chinese Communist Party. So in conclusion, Madam Chair, whether or not we are able to establish the espionage activities of both Zhijang and one Guo Huaping, we already see, Madam Chair, the extent of malign activities of a certain nation in our country. And as a, Madam Chair, if you will permit, this has an impact on the current efforts of the Senate, especially in one, encouraging all our government agencies and even our local government units to pursue prudence and due diligence in their dealings with entities from mainland China. Even noting the efforts previously of our Senate Economic Affairs under Senator Win and our Senate Committee on Public Order and Safety, we already saw the corrosive effects of the POGOs earlier. I think this was last year. Therefore, we encourage the efforts of Senator Jinggoy Estrada in amending our Commonwealth-era espionage law and combining it with efforts to draft an anti-foreign interference law. Also, the strengthening of focal agency measures pertaining to, for example, our birth certificate, which has become the entry point for all other fake documents like passports, LTO driver's licenses, and the like. Third, related to the previous measure, to strengthen the counterintelligence efforts, not just across defense, military, and intelligence agencies, but even those government agencies that may have indirect security implications. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Deputy Asedillo. Pati sa pagtukoy at pag-affirm ng mga areas for remedial legislation na pinapahalagan talaga ng komite namin as we have gone through these successive hearings. Yung brief but very substantive report nyo prefigures some of my follow-up questions and I think gives a very important, not just cautionary note, pero sabi nyo nga paalala o mungkahi sa lahat nating nagtatrabaho sa gobyerno. So it's an understatement almost to say na plausible yung Al Jazeera documentary. Not 100% certain, but at least plausible. Tama po ba, Deputy?
Yes, Madam Chair. If I was referring earlier to certain common elements between Ms. Guo Huaping and Zhijang, if you can notice between them, Madam Chair, they were practically plucked out of obscurity. And they suddenly become awash with cash, which allowed them to foray into business and eventually, in the case of Ms. Guo Huaping, even a foray into politics. Again, without discounting the possibility that this is in aid of espionage activities, on the basis alone that they are able to penetrate various agencies of government, undermine various systems existing within our country, this becomes a very, very, shall we say, insightful case for every one of us to take note, Madam Chair, not just us in the national security sector.
Opo. So, kaya siguro that accounts for the great interest ng ating mga kababayan sa particular case study na to. And dahil napaka-interesante in that way also si Zhijang, sinikap na ba ng NICA makipag-ugnayan kay She?
Yes, Madam Chair. Again,
Okay.
without divulging further detail, there is indeed such an effort.
Okay. Now, one thing that, and nabanggit nyo na rin kanina, almost indirectly, Deputy, one thing that stood out for me, dun sa Zoom interview namin kay Wang Fugwe, yung sinabi niyang not all the spies are Chinese. Tumitingin din ba kayo sa mga alegasyon na may mga kababayan nating espiyang Pilipino pero nagsisilbi sa interes ng dayuhang bansa?
Madam Chair, there are at least 3 ways that this may be achieved. One is for the Chinese government to make use of their massive diaspora, not just here in the Philippines, but all across the globe. Second is the use of our own citizens, either through the promise of money and other enticements, whether or not sila po ay sold doon po sa gustong gawin ng CCP. On the mere fact po that there are enticements, madali pong makuha ang loob nila. A third, Madam Chair, although wala pa po kaming documented instance of this in our country, there is one instance in the United States that the Chinese government used a Taiwanese citizen to access sensitive information within the U.S. government, Madam Chair, because precisely that Taiwanese citizen would be a throw-off. Hindi po siya paghihinalaan given the strong alliance of these two countries, of Taiwan with the U.S., pero siya po yung tinarget at siya po yung nakuha ng Chinese government.
I see. At yung animosity din, supposedly, between Beijing and Taipei. Gusto ko lang, before I go on to my next question, gusto ko lang i-make of record dahil 2 beses nang nabanggit ito and kahit papano nababahala ako eh. I know it's necessary dun sa pag-aaral nyo sa 3 possible trajectories, 3 paraan, pero nababanggit talaga yung massive diaspora. And gusto ko lang ulit i-affirm na Chinese Filipinos are Filipinos. At yung Chinese-Filipino community dito sa atin, on many occasions, ang majority sa kanila talagang explicit sumusuporta sa Philippine national interest. And in particular, ilang pagkakataon tumulong mismo sa investigasyong ito ng Committee on Women. I wouldn't be surprised kung sa Committee on Economic Affairs, on Public Safety and Dangerous Drugs, even Committee on Labor na isa pa sa mga Senate committees na nag-imbestiga laban sa Pogo. So kaugnay nung pinag-usapan natin kanina that this is not about anti-China or anti-Chinese dahil tumutulong din po tayo sa mga Chinong victim survivors ng human trafficking. In the same way, gusto ko lang i-make of sarili kong maternal great-grandmother, pure Chinese. Halos lahat siguro tayo around the table, we have the heritage as well. So I just wanted to make that of record while appreciating yung difficult task na kailangan ginagawa ng intelligence community natin in this very globalized world, no? Na nagiging, sabi nyo nga kanina, Deputy, it's very complex.